Hi, this is Madhavan, and you're watching Good Times.
Lovely to see you. We are meeting in person after Sala Khadoos.
That's right.
So, how's it going? एक तो आपने इतना बड़ा तीर मार लिया, acting भी, direction भी and production भी. और कुछ बचा?
Writing.
वो भी हो जाएगा.
वो भी किया मैंने इस पिक्चर में.
Wow.
जी, I wrote it, produced it, directed it, and acted in it.
So let me start from the basic. How did the idea to do a movie on Mr. Nambi Narayanan came about? Because when one reads about him, he's not been celebrated. He is, what would you say, an unglorified hero of our country. So how did this entire idea came about? I think you are one of the first who's taken this brave step to make a film like this on a person like this.
It started with a very shallow idea on my behalf. I just finished Vikram Veda, and I wanted to do a film. I was tired and I was bored of doing films with dirty locations and dirty clothes, enough of it. So I thought I'll do something nice. And somebody came and told me that there's a good-looking ISRO scientist who had an affair with a Maldivian woman, and he sold, because of that, he sold secrets of rocketry to Indian rocketry to Pakistan. He was arrested, beaten, brutalized, and almost killed. And then, of course, he came out, and then he was proved innocent. So I thought, great, man, we'll do a poor man's James Bond film, rocket scientist from ISRO, beautiful Maldivian woman. And with that very shallow, if I may say, very shallow intent, I went to meet Mr. Nambi Narayanan in Trivandrum. And Pooja, I've always looked beyond the obvious, and I've always trusted my instinct. And one look at Nambi sir, and I knew that I was missing some huge picture. My instincts were telling me there was something not right about the situation. Because I met a man who was angry, who was upset, who was hurt, who met me. He said, Mr. Madhavan, I'm a big fan of your work, nice movies you do in Tamil. But when he started talking about the case, his voice used to quiver, not with sadness, but with anger and with, how can they call me a traitor? How can this, and this is despite being proved innocent. Yeah. This is 14 years after being proved innocent, and the country saying, you're fine. Of course, the Padma Bhushan and the final verdict and the compensation had not come when I started the film. And I got caught up with his narrative. And I'm like, oh yeah, so, and all his proof and everything was proving it to be quite a potboiler of a story. Took 7 months for me to write the script.
Wow.
Because, I just thought, let me give it a shot. And when I met him after 7 months, he said, Madhavan, you've written it all well, but this point is wrong, because at this point of time, I was actually in Princeton studying the instability theorem with Luigi Crocco. When he said that name, I literally had goosebumps. I said, you're talking about Professor Luigi Crocco, who's considered the father of the moon missions? And he said, yeah. I said, how do you know him? He says, know him? I did my thesis under him. I'm the first Ivy League student scientist to go to Princeton to do a thesis over there. And I said, Nambi sir, when were you planning to tell me this? And then he started telling his story about his achievements, not the case, about his Princeton, France and Scotland, and 400 million pounds of equipment that he got for free, and how he went to USSR where they were breaking up and smuggled the engines to India. And I said, with every word, my script was getting torn to shreds. And I said, when were you planning to tell me this? He said, what is there to say, Mr. Madhavan? They paid me a salary, I did my job. And Pooja, that day I realized that there were two types of patriots in the country. The one that go out in a blazing glory, saying Bharat Mata Ki Jai, defend the country and get written about and recognized. And then there are yet others who, knowing very well that they will never be recognized for their contribution, or even known, or have a road named after them, or have a bust put at the end of a street, will still do their job with a missionary zeal. And Nambi Narayanan was one of them. The reason I was stunned is that he didn't consider his achievements or his contribution to the nation or to ISRO anything big at all. In fact, if I ask you right now, why do you think Nambi Narayanan got the Padma Bhushan? You will not have an answer, right? That's
Something
why
to do with a space engine, rocket engine?
Of course it is to do with a rocket engine, that's his thing. But, if you ask people, they say, because he was jailed and innocent, and he was innocent. That's not the reason you give somebody a Padma Bhushan, the third highest civilian award. He got it because he built a liquid fuel engine called the Vikas engine, named after his mentor Vikram Sarabhai. And this engine has the distinction of never having failed. The missions might have failed, the satellites might have failed, but the rocket engine never failed. We used to hear this story from Sriharikota before 90s, when the rockets would take off and fall into the sea or take off and explode. But once the Vikas engine was put into the PSLV,
Wow.
Never failed.
Also, before we come to the other aspects, what intrigued me was since it charts his life for decades, how many? Five?
5 decades.
Five decades. So I saw a shot of you that reminded me of you in Tol Mol Ke Bol. Ladies, if you haven't seen it, I suggest search Maro. How did you manage that? You were looking the way you did those many years ago, and then transforming yourself to what the gentleman looks now.
Yeah. So we've done something. We've done 3-4 things in this film that has never been done before. I dare say anywhere else in the world before. And one of that is to show all the scientists between the age group of 29 to 79 without prosthetics. So all the hair, all the weight you see, our stomachs, our teeth, everything as it changes over a period of time is real. So the reason we had to make ourselves look that real, and Nambi sir used to say, why are you doing all this? Why are you trying to look like you said, Tol Mol Ki Bol? Nobody's going to blame you if you don't, But I didn't want one false note in this film, because everything that I've shown in this film is true and real. I might have compressed time and combined characters as the only liberty, but when you do a biopic, oftentimes you have to add a little bit of masala to make it palatable as a film. But in this one, I've actually taken out facts for people to believe that it's a story of one man. Because if I kept everything there, and the only regret I have is that I didn't have 8 hours to make Nambi Narayanan's movie, because there is so much of his story I had to leave out. For example, nothing about the case is there in the film. It's hardly there for 7-8 minutes. And that's what he's known for in India.
Sadly.
Or what he did in Russia, or what he did in 3 years in France. The one thing I asked Pooja is, if you think, I told Nambi sir, I'm very sorry, but if you think I'm going to make an homage to you and show you like a Maryada Purushottam, a man without faults, and a scientist who went out and did his best for the country, then I'm not the man to make a film for you. I want to know what your inhuman side is. I want to know what your false side are. Did you actually have an affair with a woman? Did you actually sleep with somebody? Did you break the laws? Did you have an inhuman side? Tell me that first, so that people can believe your human achievements. And he told me his inhuman sides, and they were frightening, Pooja. Right. It's nothing like we know. It's not what we've heard, but the brutality with which that man existed, the tools that he used to get what he had to get for the sake of the country, and I'm saying he's a selfish patriot. He did it for his own good. It happened to be good for the country. That's what I would say.
Wow, I like that. A selfish patriot who did it for his own good, but for the good of the country.
Yeah, eventually he's always been talking about the country, right? So he told me things that churned my gut. And
like what? One, if you could tell us.
That is why I made the film.
Okay, we'll watch that movie.
You have to, because those are very pivotal parts of the story, for you to believe that he could be a human being. You know what I mean? And so that's the uniqueness. And so how did I look like Tol Mol Ke Bol? It was a 1.5-year research of how your teeth and the way you keep your teeth and the way you structure it for anybody at any age. People think you can't change your teeth after you're 40 or 50. In fact, you absolutely can. And how that maintains. So sometimes your teeth structure can make you look much older than you should be, or make you much younger than you should be. So those are the research I did, how you can lose weight and put on weight, what applied kinesiology is, how allergies affect your emotional state, and how emotional states affects your body allergies, and how you can use that to manipulate your weight. All that research has been done and used in the film.
I think that could be a next film also.
Yeah, possibly.
Wellness guru also. But that apart, how challenging was it to shoot a film simultaneously in 3 languages in real sync sound across 5 countries?
8 countries. Yeah.
8 countries. Sorry, I missed out the 3. I mean, you took this project on. Kabhi man mein ye nahi hai ki whatever, I mean, it's a challenge, man. It's a huge challenge to take upon yourself.
I mean, it's just stupidity. It's not just a challenge. It's like complete maniac. You have to be a maniac. I didn't want to direct the film. I was very sure about that. I wanted to write it because nobody understood rocket technology among the writers that I knew, to be able to see. If I'm making a film on a badminton player or a dancer or a singer, Pooja, it's very easy to show on screen what they do, and you can see, हाँ यार अच्छा भागता है, अच्छा लड़ता है. How do you show what a rocket scientist does? And how do you show what a genius rocket scientist does? It's literally rocket science.
And you literally don't even have songs singing and...
No singing.
Yeah,
because Nambi Narayanan sir was very clear. कि खबरदार तूने मेरे को भगवाया, and
one of his background tracks.
Yeah. No imaginary stories, no imaginary songs. So on that way, it's totally uncommercial film. So I'm running the risk of it. But the fact is that I had to keep the story real. So that's why I wrote the script. as an actor, every actor dreams of doing a lifetime story. Yeah, you get to play a 29-year-old and right up to a 79-year-old. So I've seen Nayakan with Kamal sir and Amitabh Bachchan, so I thought this is my chance to do it. I went to the producers and I said, this is a film I want to do. It's about a rocket scientist. They said, who is the heroine? I said, no heroine. He said, how many songs and fights? I said, no songs, no fights. Then they said, no producer. So I had to, I put my money where my mouth is. I had two funders with me, my producer friends, Vijay Moolan and Dr. Varghese Moolan, as well as 27th. And these guys believed more in Nambi sir than me. And they said, let's make this movie about him because we really need to tell his story. And they stuck through thick and thin with me till the end, and the release is on the 1st of July. But I didn't want to direct it. It was being directed by some other guy. And 1 month before the release, he couldn't direct it. He had to drop out of the project. So the choice was drop the film and move on, or Nambi Narayanan believed that I could direct it. My investor said, you know the story, you've understood liquid fuel, you've understood the Vikas engine, nobody can do it better than you and you're already there, so why don't you direct it? And in a moment of bravado, I said, fine, I'll do it. 1 month before, and on the day of the set that I went onto this location to shoot, that's when it hit me, and that's when I felt completely naked. I really felt like I had forgotten to wear my clothes. I was sweating from the back of my ears. I just didn't know what to do. And the mammoth task in front of me in 3 languages with Shah Rukh. See, when we started the film, I didn't expect it to have a Shah Rukh and a Surya and Khans and Times Square, and this is not the kind of film we started off making. It's supposed to be a small film. And then I was standing there, and my friend called me from LA and he said, Maddie, you're already there, you're on the set. If you look at the whole picture, you're never going to get started. Just do that one shot as a director. Just take that one shot you're supposed to do, make sure it's right, and then you see what happens. And that one shot has resulted in the film being shot in 3 languages, and here we are, ready for the release.
There is you, there's Shah Rukh, there's Surya. Amazing how much bigger now of a man who is larger than life, but sadly, many don't know his story.
Exactly.
But in a country which you're well aware as an actor, where everything is gauged by kitna paisa lagega, commercial masala, it's such a huge risk that you've taken, yeah?
I think the latest results of films about what is defined as commercial film has encouraged me a lot.
You think it's a good?
I think it's a great sign. I think we've far underestimated the value of our viewers. They're capable of watching an Inception or an Interstellar and a Gravity and
but
make it.
But that we haven't shown in our country. No? This is one of the first.
Exactly.
Yahan to isliye I'm asking you that because we show glorified heroes, we show sportsman biopics, we show boxers.
I think it's because that the directors and the storytellers are not academically inclined to understand the achievements of one aspect of India, which is humongous. I mean, we're great with our freedom struggles and we've done, the independence struggle, but the one aspect of India which is phenomenal today that everybody stands up to and looks at it with awe is our achievements in science, in space technology, in IT, as well as in medicines. And India is right on top. But nobody wants to make a film on a Sundar Pichai or a Satya Nadella because we think a Steve Jobs film will, and they make films on Steve Jobs and they make an Apollo 13 and they make a First Man, and then you start believing that only, America has got these super heroes who can achieve these superhuman stuff. But we've got them in millions in India. And I think it's about time we make movies about them to motivate the youngsters, actually make them aware. Actually, I think, Pooja, you and I are not aware. If you look at the youngest billionaires in India right now, who are 25 years old, who are into the metaverse and starting Web.3, their fan following in the B and C centers is so much more. It's unbelievable. I mean, you've never heard about a website, for instance, called Indian Hacker. He does a physics experiment and has 27 million followers, subscribers, not followers, subscribers.
Wow. Imagine a film on him.
Can you believe that?
But this is amazing, and it's amazing because that's what we discussed. I mean, we make films on heroes, mythology, but I think these are people to be celebrated. But
also,
Nambi sir, I mean, again, he's someone who is remembered, sadly, for the case, not for his contribution. And I think call him the under-hero, underdog.
Unsung hero.
Unsung hero, as I said earlier also. But it's time that we celebrated them. Has he seen the film? What was his reaction?
Nambi sir is close to 80 right now. And he has the ability to answer a question that you've asked, also answer the question that you didn't ask, and answer the question that you're going to ask. That's the kind of genius you're talking to, even now. So I remember showing him the film for his approval. He was due to leave for a flight at 6 in the evening. He came out seeing the film at 4 o'clock. Everyone in the office is pretending not to acknowledge him because they don't want to make him feel conscious. He just came out and said, Madhavan, I just want to go to the toilet. Went to the toilet and says, it's time for my flight. So I'm going to take the flight and go to Trivandrum. So I said, sir, well, what do you think of the film? He said, I'll talk to you later about it. Now we're all like, forgive my French, but shitting bricks because we don't know what he thinks of the film, whether he's approved it or not. He went to the lift. I stopped the lift and I said, Nambi sir, there are 18 men who are going to have a heart attack right now if you don't talk to us. He just came out, gave me a hug. He said, I'll talk to you later, and he went. He called me at 8 o'clock at night. And he says, I was just trying to process what I wanted to tell you of what I thought of the film. He said, Madhavan, I have seen more things in one lifetime than most men will ever see. I've also seen more things that most men should not see. And I thought I've seen everything. He says, and I've seen your film right now, and I realize that I'm going to make a lot of people jealous. So the one thing that I was processing is how much of the fact you've shown in the film is actually true and whether we've lied. And the answer to that is everything you've shown is absolutely true.
Awesome.
So he says, thank you for giving me this desire to live longer to see the outcome of this film.
How sweet is that? How sweet is that? I think that's the best compliment.
I think so.
और कोई validation की जरूरत
और
नहीं
हाँ
है
मतलब अभी वो पिक्चर कैसी है वो बात भगवान जाने बट
अच्छी है
उनको
यार।
मैंने I gave him a choice and a desire to live and see the outcome of the film and I'm very proud of that. So when the COVID came, I was praying hard and keeping everything crossed so that this aspect of it doesn't get lost.
I am glad and you're releasing it in the theatre. तब इसको वैसे वेब सीरीज कर लो, आपकी 8 घंटे का रिसर्च तो सब इंटैक्ट है.
हाँ
Any
जी.
plans to make it into a series?
I'll see the outcome of this story क्योंकि मुझे लगता है कि it's so motivating इसका बनाना चाहिए.
चलो, थैंक यू सो मच. और मेरे को एक और चीज़ बताओ, तो एक बॉक्स ऑफिस का आजकल चल रहा है. आप लोग साउथ नॉर्थ, आप तो पैन इंडियन स्टार हो. What is something that the southern stars have that we are not able to manage here in the north?
If you see the films that have done well, which is RRR and Pushpa and KGF, I think the artists are very hardworking. Huh? They don't take their stardom for granted. I think that is something that I've seen. Even in Hindi, the films that have done well, I mean, if you take Kashmir Files or you take Bhool Bhulaiya or, Gangubai, it really looks like they went out and performed their hearts out in these films. And I've understood a taxi guy tell me, he said, sir, वो बाकी लोग ना ऐसा नहीं लगता कि hard work करते हैं sir. That's exactly what he said. Maybe that's something that is common.
Absolutely.
But it's wrong to say that only South Indian films are doing well because there are enough examples of big films that are duds. And it's wrong to say that all Hindi films are not doing well either because there are much more examples of
I
brilliantly.
totally
Yeah, so.
This was one typical सवाल that I had to ask, and on that note, I also need to let you go because there's everybody waiting to hear about Rocketry and hard work. तो आपका दिख गया मुझे, तोल मोल के बोल से लेकर इसके beyond भी. So I know what you're going to look like at 80.
Thank you.
But you know how to maintain yourself, so maybe.
Keeping my fingers crossed.
Anyways, all the very best.
Thank you,
and
Pooja.
as there's a dialogue now, puppetry नहीं, ये rocketry है. So yeah, we are waiting to see the rocket. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
All the very
Pooja.
best.
Thank you.